With YouTube attacking alternative media, please consider supporting the channel via Patreon for just $1 per month. Link below. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater, and this is the start of something I've wanted to do for a while, which is jump into Star Wars books and start a bit of a book club. Now, what I'm going to be doing is going through The Last Jedi Expanded Edition, which is the novelization of the film. It just came out today on March 6, 2018, and I'll be going through this chapter by chapter. That way people who want to keep up with it and want to read along and want to have discussions in the chat, we can do it. That way you don't feel like you're left behind. The chapters in this book are remarkably tiny, so that's going to be pretty good for going through it at about one per day. So we're looking at about 36 days total for the entire thing. I'm excited for it. I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it, and then I'd like to do at the end more of a recap of the book, a live stream on the channel, or just a live hangout, get everyone in who wants to talk about it. Because the thing is, as much as I am against what I saw in the theaters, I'm hoping that the expanded edition with the extra content that was created for it will give us a bit more insight. And so with that, let's talk about the prologue to Rian Johnson's Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I was unfamiliar, or I was unsure what to think about this, because it starts off with Luke back on Tatooine with his arm around his wife, Cammy, and the entire opening of this book is setting up Luke. I think setting up his emotions, setting up where he's at in his life, because this is all a dream. A dream where Luke is the same age he is now, some 40 years after, or 30 to 40 years after the events of A New Hope, and he's still on Tatooine, never have left, never went off to the flight academy, just stayed behind. And he recounts the tale of his youth, of what happened the day that C-3PO and R2-D2 came to the farm, when R2-D2 took off in look of Ben Kenobi, after of course he saw the image of Leia, the hologram of Leia, and how Luke went out there, and instead of finding Ben Kenobi because of the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders just weren't out there that day. That is the twist. That is where his life, his path diverted from what we know, is that there simply wasn't any Tusken Raiders. Therefore, Ben Kenobi had no real reason to come out that way, had no reason to track them down. And Luke was able to get R2 and C-3PO back home. And no one knew. In fact, he even pushed his speeder the last 20 meters in order to be able to not awaken Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. But the next day is when things changed. The next day is when things really changed, because of course he was home when the stormtroopers came to his front door. He was home when they demanded to find out about the droids, and well, he served him up. He gave over C-3PO and R2-D2, much to the protests of R2-D2. C-3PO is relatively silent during all of this, which strikes me as odd, that C-3PO would ever be silent and not raise his own objections to the situation. That part caught me off guard. But as he is, you know, as the stormtroopers are digging through the memory banks, here comes Ben Kenobi using Jedi mind trick on him, or on the stormtroopers, and basically kind of helps out a little bit, not too much. They still manage to get their hands on the droids. They still manage to take Uncle Owen in for questioning, and that's kind of it. He just stayed behind after that. Never saw Ben Kenobi again, never saw the droids again, and he only learned about who the woman was in the recording when on the HoloNet, the Empire publicly broadcast Princess Leia's execution. Not only that, but they found out about Luke's friends who happened to be in the rebellion, and they came for them too on in the Tatooine, and they left their farms to be scavenged by the Jawas and the Sand People and ultimately buried. And as a result of that, Luke never went anywhere. But he was always looking off into the distance, always peering out beyond the two suns and looking to see whether or not there would be something there. Right, he always found favor in some respects being a machinist and working out well with people to get the deals, and they called him Lucky Luke around town. Obviously, this is a reference to him kind of being very Force sensitive, but not understanding how it works. And by this point in time, the Jedi would have been as much of a myth as they were in The Force Awakens, as they would have been at the time of A New Hope. Once again, showing that the timeline of Star Wars, even in an alternate dimension, is still relatively cyclical. And this is when Luke, wakes up. He wakes up back on Ahch-To, still an old man and ready for the day's chores. Even though he's there with the caretakers and they have their duties, he has his. Milk whatever the hell that one thing is. Catch fish and fix that one loose pebble or that one loose stone that needs to be replaced. That is his life. But he knew that something was coming. He had a feeling that something was going to change. And I find that to be relatively interesting, mostly due to the fact that we know from the movie that he has shut himself off to the Force. But I wonder if in some respects the Force speaks to him subconsciously, because even though he has walled himself off, which is the reason why Snoke couldn't find him, I am wondering if that was a thing, if he was able to ultimately, if his mind was still kind of feeding into it, if this dream that he knew was a dream, but even in the dream, which is very vivid in his mind, Luke on Tatooine still looked out into the stars. His wife Cammy says, you always have that look in your eye, like you were cheated, like you were meant to be somewhere else, like things were meant to change. And of course she, is his wife, so she feels upset about that. And, he goes to comfort her, but you could tell that he's looking out into the distance and he's looking for a Star Destroyer, saying that, there's been peace. Well, there's been less conflict since they took out the rebellion. And ever since then, the Empire has been in control. So there was no Han Solo meeting up with Luke and Obi-Wan. There was C-3PO and R2-D2 were surely decommissioned. Ben Kenobi went off somewhere, died alone, isn't dead at all. We have no idea. Luke never got the chance to meet him, just knew who he was, obviously, because Uncle Owen would have told him. And Luke is just a moisture farmer on Tatooine, living a life that is not meant for him. And I wonder if that dream is one of the things, we all have those dreams where we are different people. Maybe it's to remind us that we're on our right path. But you could tell that Luke maybe wanted more for his life than where he was currently at the time. And even though he knows something is coming, not entirely too sure what it is yet, you could see that this dream was probably not something that is not a one-time thing. The vividness of it, the details of it, tells me that it's been a recurring dream. And it's that what if, that alternate reality, that his life wouldn't have brought him to this point. He would have had a normal existence, but at the same time, he still would have found himself not pursuing the greatness and the legend that was Luke Skywalker. And of course, that's just the prologue. That's just the prologue leading into the opening of the movie. Tomorrow we will go through chapter 1 and then chapter 2 and then chapter 3, so on and so forth. So my general thoughts about this, because I will be recapping all this stuff, obviously, is that it kind of shows to me, it's that what if Luke was to, have done something differently. And I can't quite tell if he's missing it, if he's longing for it, or if it's just his mind playing tricks on him, trying to shield him from where he's put himself, or if it's the Force that's playing with him, trying to shield himself from where he's been. I don't know. And I don't know if the rest of if the book is going to go back to this, if we're going to learn more about Cammy, if he's going to have dreams that are going to be more detailed about this life, this duality of his own existence, of his own minds at this point in time. I mean, given that he's kind of put himself away and pushed himself off for so long, you would wonder if this is just him daydreaming, and if we would get more out of that. And the reason why I say that is because, having Luke on Tatooine as an old man being a moisture farmer and having lived a good life, would there be something there? And, honestly, the answer to that is probably not. Setting this particular train of thought up is predominantly just to kind of establish where Luke is and where his mind is when Rey meets him, obviously. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Chapter 1, but be sure to thumbs up the video, subscribe if you are new, if you want to get in on this book club. If you got the book and you're reading it, what are your thoughts on the prologue? Keep it chapter to chapter. Let's not go ahead. We're in this journey together over the course of the next 35 or 36 days. It will be a lot of fun. As always, my name is Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day. Peace out.